The man accused of stabbing and killing 24-year-old Brianna Cupford now charged with murder. The embattled district attorney of Los Angeles, George Gascon, releasing this statement, quote, "Those who show no compassion for human life will face serious consequences. The murder of Brianna Cupford has left Los Angeles County devastated, and my office is reaching out to her family to provide any services they may need." But critics like Jack Brewer want to know, where were the serious consequences for the suspect and other homeless criminals like him before? Jack, great to see you. Thank you for being here. The question, the use of the word humanitarian really kind of gets under my skin, because allowing the homeless to sleep on the street, use it as their bedroom and their bathroom, I don't think that's humanitarian. And the more these very troubled individuals, who have, many of whom have violent histories in the past, are out on the street, the greater the chances of something like this happening again, right?
Right. David, I've lived my entire life since I was a kid serving the poorest of the poor and helping people. But this is unacceptable. You know, the real question is, how do we get to the root cause of these issues? When you look at the stats, you look at the data, you'll see that murderers, 77% of everyone that commits a murder in the United States of America was before in police custody and has been released.
Wow.
73% of violent crimes have already been arrested and released. And so the question is what are we doing with these individuals once they're in custody? What are our jails and prisons doing to help make sure that we protect the folks once we let these criminals out? That is the real issue. Our prisons and jails just are not doing their job. Money, billions of dollars, are getting put into the criminal justice system, and it's not going into rehabilitation programs.
Not at all.
We have to bring Not at all. We have to bring a merit-based system to our criminal justice. You can tell if a person is being rehabbed. There are programs that you can put someone through to ensure that they understand and are ready to go back into society. But we have these leftist groups and these politicians who are pushing for criminal justice reform when they really don't understand the criminal justice system.
And Jack,
we have the majority. Yep, go ahead, David.
I was just going to say, a lot of these criminals, a lot of these violent crimes happen where the perpetrators are let out the same day. I mean, we had an incident in New York City where a guy was going around beating up women. One woman was so beaten that her jaw was permanently disfigured. He was let out the same day he did it. So, and he was put back on the street. And again, there's no effort at all to get them off of the street. You know, when this homeless problem really began to peak up again in New York City back in 2015, Rudy Giuliani, who solved it back in the 90s, said the following: "The so-called progressive view that people have a right to live on the sidewalk is not only legally devoid of any merit, but it is inhumane." Don't you agree with that?
100% is completely inhumane. Mayor Giuliani had it right. He understood. That's the reason why he cleaned up that city. He was about accountability. And now our politicians and our mayors and our leaders, they don't spend time in prisons. They don't spend time in jail. They don't even understand what programs are being put in place to make sure that these folks are getting the help and the rehab that they need. Mayor Giuliani did those things. He was actually touching the people. And I think we have a major disconnect that we have to fix. We want to focus on shutting down private prisons when a lot of the private prisons are the ones that are actually putting resources into rehabbing. We have no merit base. All we do is push money at problems, and people right now are getting murdered in our streets, and we have more lawlessness than any of us have ever seen in our lives.
That is the MO. Just throw money at the problem and it'll go away. Of course it doesn't. Now, what Giuliani did specifically, and it could be followed all over the country, he sent out police with social service workers to all the homeless people on the street. He said, look, you have several choices. If you have a problem getting a place to sleep or getting food to eat or getting a job or a drug addiction, we'll help you solve those problems. But one of those solutions is not remaining on the street. That you cannot do. And that's why the police were there, to make sure they didn't do that. So you could either go to jail or you could go with a social service worker to get your problems fixed. Why don't we try that again? It worked back in the early 90s. It'd probably work now, wouldn't it?
Of course it would. It's called accountability. It's called making people be accountable for their actions. And right now in society, we have a wave of folks that just want to give empathy to any and everyone. And they call it love. David, love is just not grace. Love is also truth. And now, right now, we're missing a lot of truth in our criminal justice system and in our nation as a whole.
Finally, you know, a lot of people focus just on guns. They say the guns are the problem. Well, Michelle Go, the victim who was pushed to her death in the subway in New York, she wasn't killed by a gun, nor was Sandra Schell, one of the women that she was beaten to death on the streets of L.A. Breonna Kupfer was stabbed to death. This is not a problem of guns. This is a problem of criminals out on the streets. Whatever weapon they're using, it's the criminal that's a problem, not the weapon.
Exactly, and it's a heart problem, right? It goes to the heart of the people, right. And we have a spirit right now that's taken over our nation, whether you're talking about killing babies in the womb, or you're talking about just not caring for life. It's a spirit, and in that spirit we need to get to the root of that, and the way we get to that is through Christ Jesus.
Jack Brewer, thank you very much. Appreciate it.